That evening, sitting in the small hotel room with Lucas, I realized how unpredictable life can be. I was already feeling anxious because my husband, Ethan, had been away for several months in another city. I missed him, of course. Boutit wasn't just because. He wasn't there's real problem was his lack of interest and care. The lonely evenings were wearing me down. How could I have known that asking my stepson Lucas to take me to his dad would result in us being stuck in a tiny hotel room with only one bed. I had no idea what would happen next. Let me explain everything from the beginning, and I promise the ending of this story will surprise you. Make sure to subscribe to my channel so I can continue bringing you more fascinating true stories like this unand. Don't forget to watch this video till the end and like the video because if this story is going to be incredible interest, please hit the like button to show your support. That morning, as I left the house, I quickly checked myself in the mirror. I felt tense, but I still looked good. Even though Ethan was away, leaving me alone. I still felt attractive, still felt alive, but even those feelings weren't enough no more. They didn't make me happy. Lucas was finishing his breakfast in the kitchen when I called out to him. I know you're starting college at the end of summer, but you still need to work on your driving. Come on, take me to your dad. Looked up at me with his usual mischievous grin. Lucas was a nice kid, funny, and a bit of a troublemaker at times. All right, stepmom, he said teasingly, but on one condition, tell Dato. Buy me a better car for the summer. We'll talk about it, I replied, pushing him out the door. I just wanted to get trip over with, but I had no idea it wouldn't go as planned. We had been driving for almost 2 hours. I was in the back seat messing around on my phone while Q sang along to some strange song on the radio, making funny comments that made me laugh. Then suddenly the car made a horrible sound like a hiss and just stopped. What's happening? I asked Kid Triong not to sound too worried. I think the car broke down, Lucas said, pulling over to the side of the road looking frustrated. So there we were stuck in the middle of nowhere. The phone signal was weak, and there was no one around to help. Spent the next 2 hours calling every mechanic we could find trying to fix Thacker. We tried to call every mechanic we could find, but the car wouldn't budge. Eventually, we had no choice but to admit it. We had to spend the night at the nearest hotel at the motels. Front desk Lucas was chatting with the receptionist while I stood behind him, frustrated. If Fithin finds out about this, he'll be so mad, I thought, but strangely in that meant it didn't seem to matter so much. Deep down, I knew tonight was going to change everything. Before this story gets even stranger, make sure you subscribe to my channel and turn on the alerts. Trust you won't want to miss the rest of this by the end. I'd love to see your support in the comments, and with those likes, we finally got to the room and upon the door. My expectations simply fell apart. The room was small, barely big enough to move around in, with just one bed and nightstand and a flickering light overhead that made everything feel gloomy. The ceiling seemed low, the AC barely worked, and the only window faced the parking lot. I mumbled, feeling disappointed. Lucas stepped in behind, mellowing. What were you expecting? A 5-star hotel? We're only here for one night. Relax, he teased, his playful tone and cheeky grin just made me more annoyed, but at the same time, I couldn't deny that there was something about Lucas's carefree attitude that stirred something in me. I wasn't sure what it was, but it was exciting. It's so hot in here, I said, touching the back of my necky. Think I need a shower or I'll fancher. No problem, Lucas said, casual, throwing himself onto the bed and lying flat on his back. This is your space, Abella. Do whatever you need to feel comfortable. I looked at him for a second. A slim-toned body with a touch of boyish charm gave him a strange kind of appeal, but I quickly pushed the thought away. He was Ethan's son, after all. Miss Tepson. I walked into the bathroom and slammed the door behind me. For a while, I just stared at my reflection in the mirror. My hair was stuck to my skin from the heat, but I still looked good. I still had that spark. I turned on the shower, letting the water run, and stepped under it, hoping it would wash away the mess of emotions building up inside me. I'm 47. I thought Lucas isn't a kid anymore. He's 22 and about to start college, and here we are stuck in this small motel room together for a few days. The thought was both troubling and exciting in a way I couldn't fully understand. Ethan Papadinto, my head. I wanted to surprise you, wanted to be with you, I thought, but now I'm here, trapped in this hotel room with your son, and I don't know what to feel about it. The steam from the shower filled the bathroom, calming my body, veins. My mind raced, thinking about Lucas' smile and his carefree attitude. It was stirring something in beside me. After a while, I decided to go downstairs for dinner. To clear my head, I put on a simple loose outfit that was perfect for the heat, but also made me feel more comfortable. Like I could relax. The hotel restaurant was small but cozy fitting. Simple setting. I ordered a light meal and a glass of wine, hoping it would help me unwind. The sun had set, and the street lights outside the motel were softly glowing. As I sat there, I couldn't stop thinking about what was happening upstairs. Wonder what Lucas is doing right now, he thought. Someone as full of energy as him probably isn't having much fun being stuck in that tiny room, yet his going attitude, so casual and carefree, was driving me crazy in a way. I called a text Lane when my wine was finished. It glanced at my dish one last time before heading upstairs. I walked up slowly, trying to calm myself. When I reached the room and opened the door at the sight in front of me, took my breath away for a moment. Lucas had just gotten out of the shower and was lying on the bed in only a robe. Completely relaxed, his robe wash off open, showing his slender athletic body. His damp hair fell over his forehead, and there was a slight grin on his lips, like he was lost in a dream. My heart started racing. It was the last thing I expected to see. When I walked in for a second, I hesitated at the door, unsure of what to do. Inside, I felt a mix of emotions. I felt uncomfortable, but I couldn't look away. What are you doing, Jezabella? I told myself. That's Ethanson. But my eyes kept drifting to Thepert of Dub. His robe that had fallen open, what I saw stirred something warm in Sadine. The small room made things worse. There was only one bed, so I'd no choice but to either sleep next to him or spend the night in the chair, and with Heath, the idea of sitting in a chair seemed impossible. I stepped into the room slowly, the sound of Lucas's steady breathing filling the space. I took a deep breath, trying to focus, but my mind was in chaos, making it hard to think clearly. I have to get myself together, he thought. It's just one night. This doesn't mean anything. I came here to surprise Ethan, and now I'm stuck in this situation. Be sensible, stay in control. I took a few steps closer to Theb and stared at Lucas. His innocent smile only made my already a toast outwards. I sat on the edge of the bed, wondering how I would get through the night. Later, in the middle of the night, a soft sound woke me up. I barely opened my eyes, just enough to look around. I saw Lucas moving in the bed. He looked half asleep, running his hands through his hair and scratching his head softly. I found myself watching him, but I kept my eyes just barely open, pretending to still be tired inside, even though I felt everything clearly. I tried to act like I was still asleep. Then I felt it, his eyes on me. My heart started racing. He was watching me closely. I kept up the act, keeping a sleepy look on my face and staying still, but inside I was wide awake. Slowly, Lucas began to unhook the belt of his robe. As it loosened, the robe slid off his shoulders, revealing more of his fit body. I couldn't help but notice how his muscles moved. It sent a rush of heat through me. I couldn't control what was happening, and strangely, part of me didn't want to stop it. Lucas picked up a pair of shorts from the wardrobe, glancing back at me as he did it. Felt like he was trying to figure out if I was awake. His looks made me even more excited. I was doing my best to hide how he felt, but at the same time, I let myself feel everything. After putting on his shorts, Lucas did come back to bed. Instead, he sat on the chair in the corner of the room, just watching. Being observed so closely made me feel both nervous and something I couldn't explain. I kept my eyes shut, pretending to be asleep. But how long could I keep up the act? Finally, I couldn't hold back any longer. I sat up, and when our eyes met, I let my emotions show. You're making me so excited, Lucas, I said softly. I realized in that moment that nothing would ever be the same again. Lucas blinked for a moment, then took a deep breath. His voice was low but steady as he spoke. I don't know. Isabella have been living under the same roof for a while now. Ever since my dad left, more time we spend together, the more I feel for you. You might not know it, but some me times. I can't hide how much I care about you right now. This feels like a dream. His words caught me off guard, but they also made me feel something deep inside. Lucas didn't look away, his eyes locked with mine, full of honesty and emotion that left me captivated. I need to get up early to fix car, he said, though his voice sounded like he was trying to convince himself. Right now, I can't take my eyes off of Isabella. I've never felt this way before. My heart raced. I moved to the edge of the bed and sat down a necker in front of him, my eyes never leaving his. The energy between us was so strong that it didn't need words. We sat quietly for a moment before I slightly pursed my lips and looked at him. Lucas, I sighed softly with a mix of curiosity and challenge in my voice. Are we talking about the same thing? Lucas stared at me, his expression deepening as if he wanted to feel this moment rather than talk about it. He didn't answer, but his eyes spoke everything. That's when I realized was no turning back. As I looked into his eyes, a wave of boldness and desire filled me, the mix of doubt and excitement in his eyes only pushed me further. Taking a deep breath, I spoke again, my voice steady but firm. Lucas's side, catching his full attention. When I came into the room, you were asleep, your robe was open, and I couldn't take my eyes off you. It affected me more than he thought. We can't hide from how we feel. Both know that. As my words hung in there, I took a step forward and slowly stood up. His gaze followed me, and he could see his breath quickening. I couldn't stop the excitement rushing through me. My fingers moved to Therabon on my dress, and as I slowly untied it, could hear his breathing change with every movement I made. I whispered softly, we need Tofagor things out, Lucas. I carefully unzipped the back off me dress, and it slid off my shoulders, falling to the floor. The cool air again against my skin made the heat inside me grow even stronger. The look in his eyes said everything: surprise, admiration, and desire. He couldn't fight the still and spet. When us felt like a connection, now our breaths mixing without breaking eye contact. I stepped closer to him and whispered, we'll see if we're talking about the same thing. Lucas's eyes never left me, his emotions strong and filled with intensity. Suddenly he stood up without looking away from me, and turned on the room light. The warm light filled the room as he stepped over and shut the door. My heart raced at that man. It felt like time had slowed down, leaving just the two of us. As he walked toward me, my breathing quickened. He seemed to be studying my gaze, but at the same time, he knew the silent pull between us. When he got closer, his hands found my waist, and the warmth of his touch felt like an electric shock running through me. Without saying a word, he leaned in, his eyes fixed on my lips. I didn't resist. I couldn't. Everything about this felt natural, like it was meant to happen. When his lips touched mine, all the tension inside me faded away. His kiss was soft and curious, but carried a clear intensity. My hands moved to his shoulders, feeling their strength and warmth as he held me closer. Space between us disappeared as our breaths mixed. That moment felt like everything we'd both been holding back burst out. Lucas's energy met the deep passion I'd been feeling for so long. It was the beginning of something both terrifying and exciting that night. There was no hiding what we felt for each other. I let myself fall back onto Theobd, my body tired, but my mind racing. My breath was still shaky, and my foot brushed across the fabric of my dress on floor. I could feel Lucas's gaze on me, a steady and intense focus in his success. A moment later, he knelt down and picked up my dress. His fingers lightly brushed over the spot where my foot had been even. That simple gesture sent a rush of heat through me as he held the dress for a moment. I saw a moment of hesitation on his face, but it quickly changed to determination. He tossed the clothes aside and his hand moved to the edge. Off bed, slowly he climbed onto the mattress, his movements careful and purposeful. As he got closer to me, the look on his face showed his feeling sparked eagerness, part intense desire as I lay on the opposite side of the bed. I could feel Lucas getting closer, my heart rest, and my breathing quickened when I saw him leaning towards me. I realized space between us was almost gone. It felt like everything had built up. To this moment, there was no going back, and what I felt inside was huge, painful, yet thrilling at the same time. I looked up at the ceiling, but I could see Lucas' face's hand brushing back his hair. He could tell by his eyes what he was feeling. He was red in the face, excited and so happy. I could see how much energy was putting into everything, and you could hear that he was out of breath. Lucas had rushed both me and my emotions to a point where I was both overwhelmed. Happy the car broke down. I'll never forget this hotel. Lucas murmured, his voice shaky, each word coming out with a deep breath. His eyes stayed on me. Butho's hands were slightly trembling. His bowling was tense, his muscles tightening, each movement becoming more careful, like wanted to hold on to the moment. I really don't want my father to sell Vecker anymore, he added, after saying. Thish laid down next to me, closed his eyes and waited for his breath to slow down. I was exhausted and didn't have the strength to say anything. My legs were shaking. And I didn't even realize when I fell asleep the next morning, Lucas came in telling me the car was fixed on that we needed to pick up Ethan and head to the city where he was on his trip. I felt sad and confused, but at the same time, there was excitement inside me. I looked at Lucas. His gaze, his movements, siving about him, had such an affecting me. Everything felt so complicated, yet he didn't know what would happen next. I couldn't tell if I was confused or excited, but there was one thing I was sure of: this trip was going to change everything.